World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
Thanks for joining us this evening on Simspeed TV for Ozicar Formula 4 from Oulton Park, no chicanes. It's going to be a high-speed slipstreaming battle in these junior level open wheelers. It's been a very exciting championship so far, and season one was also an absolute thriller for Ozicar in these cars. Looking forward to seeing what round 5 brings us as it then sets up the championship finale of round 6. David Haynes here with Jason Fewens, Jay Kennedy on the production. Jason, we've seen plenty of action, and we're going to have more tonight.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you, David. It's going to be an absolute cracker of a race. This is one of the tracks I've really been looking forward to for the duration of the season. It's going to be very well suited for these open wheel Formula 4s. Like you said, it's going to be critical to keep a clean car, keeping somebody's draft, because if you fall behind, it's going to be pretty hard to capture that back up. There is only one chance tonight. We've got a 15-minute endurance race as far as Aussie cars go, so there is no split race. So the mindset these drivers have to take on is they're here for the long haul, and we are getting, like you said, to the pointy end of the championship, so every point really counts at this stage. So it's going to be really critical to see how these drivers play things out.
Looking there at no chicanes on the back straight from the hairpin at turn 5. Well, damn flat out, probably all the way through to Druids as well. That will keep the packs close, it will keep the racing close, and also turn a little bit of a screw on the strategy, which will be, I guess, more important this round.
Yeah, we've got 21 drivers on grid tonight, so there is a reasonably good chance these drivers are going to stay within a draft range of each other. Like I said, strategy, are you going to pit early, go for an undercut? Are you caught in traffic? How are the tyres holding out? What's your fuel situation like? There's a lot of things these drivers really need to consider. And the next 50 minutes, we'll see a few different strategies play out. But ultimately, only one person can win at the end of the day. And our championship leader at the moment is Ewan Baker, sitting on 387 points. He's got a bit of a buffer back to our defending champion, Thomas Hinds. So keep an eye out for Ewan to potentially try and wrap things up tonight. But you have plenty of competition in the form of Hinds, Chastanoff, Kleisbernick, Martin as well. So there's plenty there in that top 5 that can throw a cat amongst the pigeons and really set things off for a good finale next week.
Jay Kennedy thinks 335 is bigger than 338, but there's no doubt that Ewan Baker leads this championship and has some points in his back pocket, and you maybe start to think about the top 3s, the top 5s, and just seeing out the championship at this point, but he has been incredibly quick and consistent in these F4 cars. They are all going to grid up now. That 50-minute or 33-lap race. We'll see exactly which one it ends up being. They're pretty similar. And he is on pole from Thomas Hinds, James Chastanoff, Brody Shepherd, Julian Kleinbusink, and Adrian Juke. Key championship contenders are all there in the first 3 rows of the grid. Then Braden Martin, Luke Quist, Jared Thomas, Darren Toon, Sean McKenzie, and Brody Tressida to 12th place. They're getting ready to go, though. So Sean Doyle, Dennis Hancock, Warren Henry, Darren Shannon, etc. Well, a good jump from your pole sitter, who starts on the racing line, even though it's the outside for turn number 1, and Baker will maintain that lead. No pressure for him through turn number 1. The other drivers, they've got to be careful on this opening lap on their cold tyres. It's a very hot track as well, could be pretty slippery. Hinds has gotten good drive off of turn 1, and they head down to this long, sweeping Cascades turn where you don't want to run out wide and touch the grass, and the battle looks like it's all over 3rd place at the moment.
Yeah, as you can see in the background, everybody making their way down the bottom of the hill for the first time. They are pretty well in single file. There's a couple of drivers there pushing issues. It's going to be interesting under brakes. A bit of a lock up there from one of the Aussie cars on the inside, but then we can pull it up without any dramas, and you can see everybody making their way through without any incident at this stage. But Ewan Baker out in front, he is shadowed by Thomas Hinds. You can see the gap there, 0.3 of a second, then it's a whole second back to Brody Shepherd. So making hay while the sun shines, these two out front. Obviously not fuel saving, not looking after their tyres early in the race. They are out to the gap, and they catch up.
That's the massive flat out back straight, if you want to think of it like that. And things like that where Hinds just wants to stay with the slipstream of you and Baker. And Baker won't be able to get away, and then you can start to think about the pit stops. But, oh, Braden Martin in the wall. Spears back onto the narrow circuit. There's a handful of other damaged cars there as well, and it keeps going, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's an absolute carnage there. I'm sure the leaders out front probably got no idea what's actually happened behind them, as we can see. But you can see Braden Martin in there. I think Darren Shannon was another one caught up. There was a couple of the Ozicar Formula 4s, so there'll be some early casualties in this race tonight. One of those, I think, was the series organiser, Ira Felberg, as well. So plenty to think about. There's a number of cars sitting in the pits already, so it's looking pretty busy in pit lane, which was unprecedented.
Third, fourth, fifth, sixth here with Chastanoff ahead of Shepherd, Kleinbersink, Adrian Duke, and you want to get a great run out of that lovely banked hairpin because we ride on board with Kleinbersink absolutely flat out, climbing up through the gears, following the wheel tracks of the car in front for that slipstream, clicking up into sixth. How flat out are we at the bottom of the hill though here? Sixth gear at 7,000 RPM, just got to shift it down to fifth to get the car through that fast kink. Those kind of, tiny braking zones, little scrub of speed, so challenging compared to a big braking zone into a hairpin or something, because so little room for error as you make just one down and try to carry as much speed as possible.
So you can see the track's clear from where the accident happened last time. All the cars out of the way, so the leaders make their way through without any hassle whatsoever. Of course, the front two out now, nearly that gap's nearly 2 seconds between Hinds and Chastanoff's front of our screen at the moment. Looks like there's a change of position. Brody Shepherd and Julian Kleismanik battling for the fourth and fifth at the moment. The 55 of Shepherd gets the better of that little battle. But of course, Adrian Duke there in the coffee bean livery car in the background, just waiting for an opportunity to present himself.
Kleismanik had a look into turn one, but couldn't complete the move. Cars behind get a little bit closer. Here's what happened on lap number one. Now, what I saw, it started with Braden Martin. Here he is at Druids. Tough, sometimes off camber, double right hand, just gets a tiny bit wide, one tyre into the grass, hits the Armco, comes back across, and yep. Slow moving car gets drilled, and the narrow circuit there between the walls, sees it continue to happen. This is just a cold tyres lap one kind of thing for Martin. As we went to that replay though, 4th place, 5th place, found some of the grass and ended up in the wall before the hairpin.
Yeah, it's a pretty hard hit. I think these drivers do have a fast repair on board tonight as well, so a lot of those drivers that were potentially caught up in that lap one incident, as well as Kleisman, they're obviously returning back to the pits. We will see them back out on track. It's not race over for those guys, but they will have used their opportunity to get a fresh car earlier than they probably would have liked. But more importantly, we can see them back out on track, still circulating.
Yeah, there's Braden Martin back. Still staying pretty close between first and second. Here they are with Baker leading, Hinds going along with him at the moment. Third, still pretty exciting. Chastanoff not able to get away from Brody Shepherd. Adrian Duke, such an easy place to have a lock up at that hairpin as the inside of the track drops away a little bit into that nice camber.
Pictures you can see on your screen really show you how elevated this circuit is as well. So it's quite a fast flowing straight here, but you definitely come up over the crest and back down the other side into this heavy braking zone, as you can see.
Tressida and Doyle around the outside will end up in the wall. Tressida, how much damage has he sustained from that? Again, you're saying not flat out from that team, but also not a big braking zone. Each driver just scrubbing a little bit of speed, making one downshift. And it goes worse for Tressida as he tries to turn into Druids on the grass.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was damage or just dirt on the tyres still, but obviously flow on from that effect. If we look at the replay now, you can see the car's having a really good run up the top of the hill. Sean Doyle in that 74 on the right-hand side of your screen. And as they just go down a gear to tick into this corner, looks like Doyle's just maybe potentially come across the top of Cressida's nose there and didn't give quite enough room. I'd have thought was a bit more room on the inside than he potentially gave.
So I think Tresida does actually have quite a bit of damage here, and he's trying to stay out of the way of some of the cars coming, and he gets very left and turns in on the grass, but he wasn't at speed. I think he was with some kind of steering damage. Closer up front, a little bit of traffic starting to come up for Baker and Hinz is all over the race leader now.
If Baker looks at his mirrors, which as a race driver you try not to do, he will see that very distinctive black and purple, we'll call it, livery of Thomas Hinz. We've grown to love him here on Ozicar, so it's looking like a pretty good opportunity for him to make a move here. He's looking pretty racy at the moment, but by the same token, he could be quite content to sit behind, save some fuel, and let Ewan punch that big hole in the front of in the air in the front of the cars to tow him along.
Track's still just a little toasty at 34 Celsius as well, and this being the long race that it is, Hinz runs a little wide out of turn 1. The tyre wear does maybe start to affect when you want to pit. In the shorter pit stop races, it's really all about managing the cold tyres. You don't need to worry about how long you push the tyres in the long distance. In here, you might have to. So in 6th, you find Luke Quist, Jared Thomas, and Jared Thomas gets down the inside for that position and then needs to defend it into the hairpin.
Yeah, I've been watching this little battle between the two teammates for the last couple of laps now, and they've been at each other's throat, well, pushing each other along more to the point that has allowed Darren Choon in that green car behind to snap onto the back of him as well. So while they're pushing pretty hard at the moment, they might be potentially slowing each other down just a little bit. But you can see the group of cars in front, just 2 seconds down the road. So these guys are well and truly drafting the cars in front. They are doing a pretty good job at the moment of avoiding each other.
Ewan Baker would have had a bit of a headache for a couple of corners there, but out of the way jumps Darren Shannon, I think it was, and lets Baker and Hinz continue their battle at the lead of the race. My teammates here is Darren Choon. Darren Shannon dropped in to jump into the pit lane. That was the noise that I heard. Uh-oh, this is Braden Martin again. He's been sending me messages about how well his football team is going. He's not going to be sending any messages about how well his own racing is going tonight.
Yeah, he'll be pretty disappointed with that. I don't think there was too much damage to the car, and obviously we presume he's obviously used his fast repair early on, but Braden Martin is in contention for the team's championship, so we've got to keep that in mind as well as the season comes to a close, because along with him and James Chastanoff at the moment, they're leading that team's championship, and if you can't be in contention for the overall championship as a driver, you definitely want to take home that team's one. So Braden might just have to wheel it back in a little bit. Roy Clark's in the pits now. You can see him making the first of his pit stops. I don't think that was...
Side by side with the leaders here. Hinz is having a little bit of a go as they go from that kink towards Druids. Track is so narrow here, very bumpy. They're trying to hang it around the outside. Ewan Baker nearly ended up in the grass. Hinz has given him plenty of space, and the two of them are still side by side heading into what I'd consider the final corner, which can be an overtaking zone at times, and Baker still won't give up, but he's lost traction. He's looped it around. He's not been hit, but Hinz goes through into a clear race lead, and the championship leader is dropping positions early.
Yeah, this will also allowing these cars behind, so Chastanoff and Brady Shepherd and Adrian Duke there have made a big gap on the group in front there. So that's back down to a 2-second lead now to Thomas Hinz. So if these guys decide to work together and use each other's help to catch onto the back of Thomas, because now Thomas out in front hasn't got anyone to tie him along. He's out there by his lonesome, so he could find himself with a bit of company over the next couple of laps. We'll keep a close eye on that.
So Baker's now back in 8th place, 9 seconds behind the overall lead. Well, it was very respectful up until this point. And what happens for Baker is he tries to break deep around the outside. No contact there. I think you're just off the racing line. There's not quite as much grip, and plenty of elevation change around this place, as we've pointed out, and the track does drop away at the exit there in that corner, which can catch you out. Makes it a challenge when you're on the racing line, when you're braking deep around the outside. I think part of the elevation has got to him.
Yeah, there's a long way to go. We're only on lap 8 of 33, so there is an opportunity for Ewan to come back. He's shown he's got good speed, obviously setting the pole time here tonight in qualifying. So he's got to clear that out of his head, knuckle down, and just focus on catching the cars in front, pegging them off one at a time. And the one in front of him at the moment is the 191 of Darren Toon. As we make our way through turn 1, this is Brody Shepherd and Adrian Duke still going at it. Pretty feisty little race. We can jump on board and see a top of Adrian Duke's view to see exactly how he sees things as well.
Duke had a good run out of that final corner, looked to the inside of turn 1, and it didn't quite work out. We've seen a couple of times drivers try to get down the inside of turn 1 and it not work, because then you go down the hill and it's immediately into a left-hander and sees you on the outside for the next corner. So interesting to see where you can and can't pass around here, and it seems like a good run up the hill towards Druids after this flick at the bottom of the hill can be one of the passing opportunities, because it's very easy to get one of the curbs or one of the bumps wrong there, cost yourself momentum, then up the hill into this next corner.
Yeah, so after a long straight there in that flowing right-hand corner, you come into a pretty heavy braking zone there as the drivers just make their way through. Again, it's off camber. You come across a little crest and you can't exactly see what's on the other side of that corner. So there's a lot of trust that's really relied on these cars out on track. I think there was a car off on the right-hand side in the background as well. Looks like it might have been Zoid Clark. You see him get back up to speed now. So Mount Riverview driver from New South Wales, he has already had his first pit stop and he's had an unscheduled spin as well. So back on track with no damage, but just lost a heap of track time.
Quist following his teammate for what's now 5th place. Gain another corner here, not quite flat out. Still very quick through that left-hander and then into this hairpin. Then forget about all the silly little chicanes. Straight through that one. Over the crest, straight through the next. It's basically, you know, Monza of the British North.
So on lap 10 of 53 now, we are in round number 5 of this 6-round series, and you did say we're in the British North. This has been a British-based series this season 2 of the Formula 4s. So we've visited some pretty unique and distinctive tracks across the British Empire. We've been to Donington, we've been to Brands Hatch, we've been to Silverstone. Obviously tonight we're here at Oulton Park, and next fortnight for the final round we will be at Knock Hill, which was a tight little track and going to be an absolute spectacular way to end the season. But we're focusing here tonight. 268 on our screen is Peter Wilkinson as well, and he's done a pretty good job starting back 21st on the grid tonight, and he has made his way up quite a few positions. So I think he's in P12 at the moment. So he's tucked in behind John Snell, the car in front. So I think he's our biggest mover so far in the first 10 laps of this 33-lap race.
Yeah, not all that far from Manchester and Liverpool here. Nathan Verney is a decent distance from the racing surface, though. That left-hander called Cascades. No paved runoff, so you can quite easily catch the grass there, which I would guess is what's happened.
Take the guesswork out of it, we'll see exactly how it all unfolded. Just got a little bit of a tank slapper on the downhill change of direction as you're stuck into that left-hand sweeper. And like you said, plenty of runoff out there, so no harm, no foul, back on track and obviously back up to speed now. But it'll take another half a lap for his tyres to get back up to temperature and clean that dirt and grass off. I did speak earlier about Thomas Hinds potentially falling back into the grass with these guys sitting second, third and fourth, but to his credit, he's pulled that gap out from 2 seconds to 2.6. So he has got his head down and he is trying to maximise that distance between him and the cars behind. It's doing a pretty good job at the moment. He hasn't had a lot of traffic to contend with at this stage, on like 12 or 33, but it'll be interesting to see when he decides to pit and whether the cars behind are going to follow suit. So I'd expect that to happen in probably the next 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, pretty static track temperatures, and we're approaching halfway at sort of lap 16, 17. Not much wind at all.
Some of the shorter sprint races throughout the season, we've seen some of the drivers go long and the benefit has paid off with the overcut, and by the same token in other races we've seen the undercut pay dividends. So really, if you're in a pretty good rhythm at the moment, it might pay for Thomas to stay out for potentially as long as he can, particularly if the little battles like we see on screen at the moment are behind unfolding, because that's just slowing these drivers down. Thomas Hin's now got that gap out to 3 seconds.
A good move by Shepherd, though, and Adrian Duke goes through as well. So Chastanoff back into 4th. Of course, we're about to see, does Shepherd have a bit more speed than Chastanoff did? It's always so easy to be the 2nd or 3rd car in line here and think, no, we're being held up. But then when you get to the front and you've got to, set the pace, suddenly it doesn't look as easy. Too wide through this left-hander, could end in tears as Chastanoff wants 3rd back, but he's not going to get clear before the turn in, but he still swoops around the outside, which surprises me because I thought all the grip would have been up against the apex there, not dissimilar to Griffin's Bend at Bathurst.
Yeah, good drive back down along the back straight. Adrian Duke there is tucked in underneath the rear wing, not close enough to challenge for the position going into the Knickerbock here. As you jump on board with Jarvis Thomas, he is still battling with his teammate in the 111 car of Luke Quist. So 5th and 6th sitting on the track pretty comfortably at the moment. It looks like they've made have reeled in those group in front as well. So it's 2nd, 3rd and 4th potentially going backwards a little bit, or 5th, 6th and 7th and making their way forward.
Stands out amongst UK race circuits by never having been an RAF base. Oh, that's well off the circuit for John Snell, and I think the front left tyre might have even been flat there. Either that or it was sinking deep into the grass. So we'll have a look. Driver of the 23 through the fast left-hander. Rear gets away from him. He's wobbly. He's out of position for braking into the hairpin. Hops out of the carousel and finds the tyres.
Yeah, some of that Wilkinson pressure might have finally got to him after 12 laps. So, again, easy to make a mistake there. He's obviously trying to carry on, but there's significant damage there to the front left-hand side. As you can see, the thing just battling to keep it in a straight line. So we saw him return to the pits. So I potentially will see him back out on track, but he'll have to have a few minutes of repairs to that thing before it gets to be track legal again.
If that was on the used car yard and you gave it a tyre kick, you'd actually learn something. It was wobbling from the hit with the wall. Still close with the teammates, and Darren Tune behind them. Really not that far off your 2nd, 3rd and 4th place runners either, because they've been a little less cooperative in the group ahead. Meanwhile, Quist and Thomas are going to pit together. Did one of them hit the wall on the pit entry?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but we've also seen Ewan Baker there in the background as well. He was starting to make a little bit of headway on those guys as well. So for the two of them to pit, he was probably just about to get drafted from those guys, and they've just pitted. So
Quist locked up, slowing down for the pit lane and hit the wall, which is probably actually not a problem because then he's immediately into his pit box anyway with a fast repair. But it's a challenging old pit entry there, as he's discovered. As long as he wasn't speeding on pit lane, he wasn't. The teammates both leave the pit lane together and on time. So maybe if they find a bit of clean track, they can work together, might actually be able to put together an undercut on Brody Shepherd, James Chastanoff and Adrian Duke, which would go against the grain of sort of how the tyre changes tend to go for these cars.
Yeah, so those two teammates now back out on track behind the 74 car of Sean Doyle, who's a lap down after that early contact at Knickerbrook. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly they latch on to the back of Sean, or whether he can tow them along for a bit as well. So the action, although on track, is still here for second, third and fourth. Not much has changed. It's still Brody Shepherd, James Chestnut and Adrian Duke in the second, third and fourth position. That gap to Thomas Hinds now out to 4.3 seconds. You can visually see it growing. We are now at the 16 lap point of our 33 lap race, so one more and we are halfway there. That's Adrian Duke taking some track liberties into his own hands.
Yeah, I heard that turn one exit has either been changed or getting some changes as far as how far out you can go without catching a slowdown penalty. So at the moment you can run out very wide and get a 1x off track, and if you've got a few of those to burn and you can gain time out there, I believe that's going to get tightened up on, or has been tightened up just a little bit. In a long race like this, you don't want to do it every single lap. Chastain right up underneath Brody Shepherd as you see the effect of that slipstream from the hairpin all the way to Knickerbrook.
Yeah, big change of directions for on here, right into this right-hand sweeper. This is where we saw a couple of cars come unstuck on the early parts of the race on cold tyres. Darren Toon in the background doing it beautifully, making a good drive out of there, followed by Ewan Baker as well. So Ewan is now in draft to Darren Toon. So he's been pushing pretty hard the last few laps. He has the leader dives into the pits now at the halfway point of the race. So we have a new race leader as Chastanoff takes control. Looks like Brody Shepherd might have followed him into the pits as well. So that just leaves Chastanoff and Duke out in front to duke it out.
Boom, boom. Quick stops from Hinds and Shepherd, almost a second quicker than Jared Thomas and Luke Quist. So I don't know what that's down to, whether it's whether you change front tyres or rear tyres or left sides or right sides, or just how square you park the car in your pit stall. For Hinds and Shepherd, especially Shepherd, he was under no risk of being undercut by Thomason and Quist.
Yeah, so they've come back out on track. You can see in front of them now Thomas Hinds, Brody Shepherd on track. Ewan Baker's made his way back up to third. Of course, is yet to stop. So once they take their respective pit stops, he should be back in fifth or sixth position, probably pretty close on the back of the two 111 drivers that are Jared Thomas and Luke Quist. In fact, yeah, Ewan Baker's got in front of Darren Toon there, made some good ground on him in the last lap. The VRS replay will show us exactly how things happen here.
Too much apex curb from Toon is one of the risks there, and that's what happened, and put him out wide, and Baker went through. Almost everyone else stopping though, reacting. So you see Baker, Toon, and all of those stopping, and it means Hinds goes through into first place. There's the rejoining cars. There's Shepherd on circuit through turn one, so he's going to be reunited with Adrian Duke and James Chastanoff. Oh, cold tyres and an error for James Chastanoff as he goes wide at the Cascades. Shepherd back up in a second. He's expecting the cold tyres. He's a little ginger into the left-hander, but still got caught out by it. And even at speed, Darren Toon gets around him. So back down into 8th place, I think it is, from second, is how close the field still was and how costly this cold tyre error was. Just no front grip, it seems.
Yeah, been just pushing out to the right. But what we have noticed amongst all that as it's unfolded with the pit stop sequence, Ewan Baker, I think, has made his way back up to effectively third place behind Thomas Hinds and Brody Shepherd, because I know he's still got Luke Quist, Jared Thomas here in front to battle with.
So this is Baker on Thomas, who stopped a little earlier. sandwiched between the teammates. Baker trying to make his way upstream because he can see Shepherd and Duke for the podium positions, not too far ahead as well. It's all worked out pretty good for Thomas Hinz and his nice little lead.
Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth on our screen. Seventh separated by Roy Clark there. I think just ducking to the right to get out of the way. He doesn't want to get involved in that little battle. So the Cripple Creek resident doing a pretty good job there to avoid getting caught up in the leading laps cars carnage.
If I wrote a book and called the city Mount Riverview, it'd sound corny. Just throw every geographic feature in the name.
Peter Wilkinson is in the pits now. He is our last car to take his pit stop sequence on lap 19 of 33. So leaving things to the last minute, making the most of his track time, pushing his way up through the field. So we'll see where he comes back out, but I think he should come back around the 12th or 13th.
It looks like 12th for Wilkinson. Shepherd and Duke podium, and then behind, really not far behind, 4th, 5th and 6th. Chris almost lost the slipstream off Baker and his teammate. 2 latch cars in there. And then Darren Tune for 7th is easy to spot in green.
What did they say? It ain't easy being green. Pretty smooth and tight on the exit of turn 1 there now, so these drivers got their tyres up the temperature and they're driving back within the track limits, but Ewan Baker there just getting a little bit sideways on the exit as he makes his way down this back straight. Gets a pretty good run and has a think about ducking them down the inside.
Oh, just grass to Jared Thomas, and around the outside hasn't worked for him. He's losing time, losing positions, didn't hit the wall. Saw it was the outside rear tyre just catching the grass as he tried to keep it pinned around the outside. Baker up into 4th. This is live and on board with 3rd place. Challenging little sort of hop at the apex of that corner where the chicane rejoins the circuit. Makes it a bizarre little apex to a very, very committed corner. This is around the outside for Jared Thomas. It's just there.
Yeah, got out on that painted white line. Another inch to the right, he would have been out on the grass, but it was enough to get the car loose in the back end. And once she started to rotate, it is near impossible to pull these things back around again. So costly little exercise there for Jared, but he, more importantly, he's back on track and he's lost only track time and a few positions. He's still inside the top 10, sitting in P8, but he's got some work to do to catch James Chasnoff in P6 in front of him, another 4 seconds down the road.
So what Ewan Baker would very like is these two to fight a little bit. Quist off now.
Bottom of the hill.
Yes, indeed. That grass looks so slippery.
Tokyo drifting it back onto the circuit. So he has the car of Sean Doyle a couple of car lengths behind, so there's no pressure from Doyle. It's just a little self-induced mistake on the change of direction. We've seen a couple of cars come unstuck there, more noticeably James Chasnoff after the pit stop sequence. So becoming a costly little corner for some of these drivers, but the battle back on screen is Brodie Shepherd, Adrian Duke. They are separated by only 0.2 of a second, and we jump on board with Adrian Duke to see just how close he can get onto the back of Brodie Shepherd.
Always a very late apex at that corner because you lose grip, lose traction as the surface drops away from you, so you want to get all the turning done early so you can square up the exit. That's what you saw Duke doing from on board. Also just monitoring what Shepherd's up to, and Baker, oh, he is pushing everything to try to close this gap. As you can see, he wants to get that down underneath 1 second. If he does that, then he's in the hunt for a podium. So he's got to work every corner to its maximum to try to find a 10th here and try to find a 10th there to close down that gap.
Well, he is our championship leader here going into round number 5 tonight. And of course, the gentleman out in front, Thomas Hinds, is sitting second in the championship. So there's a good haul of points, I should say, Thomas Hinds has over Ewan Baker at the moment. So Ewan will be pretty keen to get involved in this little battle for second and third and try and minimise any damage limitation, I think they call it. We have on screen Dennis Hancock, Warren Henry. We haven't spoken about those guys tonight, but they are battling for 9th and 10th on track. That Warren Henry blue and yellow livery, very, very distinctive depending on which side of the circuit you are watching it from. They're having a good little battle here. So not only the battle's happening up the front of the podium, they're buried deep in the field as well.
Run for Henry, but you've got to be very close to try to pass there. Lots of bumps, little rises, little crests in this part of the track. Still see Ewan Baker looming in the background of Brodie Shepherd and Adrian Duke, neither of whom are making any progress on race leader Thomas Hinds.
I think Ewan Baker's having a bit of trouble just trying to latch onto the back of these two as well. They've raced from the moment the lights went green pretty well, side by side, if not directly behind each other with no incidents. So there's a lot of trust and a lot of confidence in each other at the moment. So they just got to keep doing what they're doing and hopefully, from their perspective, just relieve some of that pressure that Ewan Baker's trying to apply from behind. That battle for 9th and 10th on our screen just separated a little bit by nearly half a second there at the moment. Warren Henry just dropping back a fraction. These two have been at it from the moment the lights went green as well. They've been 14th and 15th and made their way up to 9th and 10th respectively. So they're doing a pretty good job at the moment as well, driving in close proximity to each other.
Yeah, that still seems about 1.8, and there's no slipstream at that distance, but at about 1 second there is. So Baker just desperately trying to find the remaining 6 or 7 tenths of a second that will get him into the slipstream and close him up to this battle for the podium. And all it will take is a little mistake from either Shepherd or Duke, or them to go, try to go too wide through Knickerbrook or Druids or something like that. And you sense Duke is becoming less patient with Brodie Shepherd as the laps count down, and we are in the final stint in the run to the checkered flag. So that's the hope for Baker to catch them as patience wears thin towards the end.
In this lap alone, I think he's taken 2.5 tenths out of the cars in front. You can see there Adrian Duke just getting a little bit wide on the exit, so those little mistakes you were talking about potentially just starting to creep in, so concentration levels might be starting to drop, because this has been effectively an endurance race for the Ozicar Series. We have seen some 2 and 3 lap sprint races throughout the season, but I think this is our first Enduro we've had over the 5 weeks so far. That powered by coffee livery on your screen looks really, really good. Very busy, but there's lots and lots of detail in that thing. And if he keeps his caffeine levels up, he should have his concentration levels through the roof for our remaining 9 laps to go.
Yep, and there's Baker just behind him. Clawed 2 tenths last lap. Baker was the fastest car on track with a 25.2. Ed Hinds 25.3, Brodie Shepherd 25.4, and we've seen all race. Everyone is very closely matched in the lap times around here. We were sort of, watching a three-way battle for, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and realised I'm actually not that far from second place. So it's been very, very even lap times all round.
So if you look at a track map, there is cars spread around this Oulton Park circuit at the moment. Just about in every corner there's a little battle, 1 or 2 cars on track fighting for position. But the focus at the moment, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, we're really trying to see whether our championship leader can reel in these cars in front as they make their way down the hill. Tyres are definitely up to temperature now. The drivers are well and truly in the groove. And that gap between Adrian Duke and Ewan Baker now 1.4 seconds. So it does seem minute, but every little bit helps. So another 0.4, another maybe 2 laps, and he might find himself in a little bit of draft range. We'll keep a very close eye on that as the laps count down.
Hancock and Henry as well.
I don't think Warren Henry's seen the back of any other car other than that of Dennis Hancock for the majority of the race tonight. He's got a pretty good view of what the back of that white knuckle Formula 4 looks like. Again, that gap did break out a couple of laps ago between Warren Henry and Hancock. Looks like Henry's reeled it back in, so he's back in the draft of Dennis Hancock as they'll make their way up over the hill. You can see Warren Henry just pull back in the slipstream of that white knuckle car. They tip it into the right-hand side through Nickerbrook, tidy as you like, and then make their way up through to the Woods Druids.
Baker's almost done it, matching the fastest lap of the race. That lap is now within 1 second of Adrian Duke, and you will see over the course of this lap that very, very quickly start to evaporate. Just chipped away at it till he made that breakthrough, and now 2nd, 3rd, 4th, anything could happen in the remaining laps here. Baker aiming to try to defend his championship lead as best as possible.
You can see on the relative on your bottom right-hand corner of the screen, that gap now between Duke and Baker down to 8.5 tenths of a second. So big draft opportunity down the back along this back straight as they tip it in, and we've seen Ewan get a little bit wide through there, but he keeps it pretty tight as they come up over the crest under the Advan bridge. And this is turning out to be an absolutely textbook copy of a spectacular race we'd expect to see from these Formula 4s. Ewan Baker's put on a pretty good show at the moment. He's done a good job to reel back in, and he is as close as he needs to be now to maximise that draft benefit.
I'm tipping this to be the fastest lap of the race from Ewan Baker, and it is 124.7. He destroys it by 3 tenths. He destroys the track limits in turn number 1. He's driven a lot of clean air laps. Suddenly, he's back into that slightly more disturbed air off Shepherd and Duke in front.
I did say a little bit earlier, some of these drivers can take some liberties and afford to use a couple of off tracks as the race goes on. So I think Ewan Baker might have a few up his sleeve, so he might need them if he keeps using that draft and carrying those extra speed into some of these corners.
Well, now it's not just about the lap times, it's about how you race in the pack here, how you fight, and Shepherd's clearly defending somewhat, and Baker doesn't have nor Adrian Duke an infinite amount of laps to wait this one out. So I think now that Baker's caught them, you worry more about the track position than the lap times.
Yeah, I'm sure the two in front, that being Brody Shepherd, Adrian Duke, are well and truly aware that Ewan Baker's joined the party, so they'll be keeping a pretty close eye on the track in front of them, as well as keeping one eye in the mirror, because Ewan was our pole setter. He's obviously shown from the get-go he's got pretty good speed, he's got good racecraft, and again, using some track limits there at turn number 1, trying to carry maximum mid-corner speed to get that good run down the hill.
Just a proper fight now, and Thomas Hinz has bolted. You're not got to worry about catching him. They don't have to worry about being caught by Darren Choon at the moment. It's got to worry about who's going to finish second, who's going to finish third, and who's going to finish fourth. And for Baker, if he gets just a couple more spots here, it makes his job a lot easier for the final round.
A couple of locked-on lads cars on screen at the moment. 268 Peter Wilkinson, the leader of the Misfit bunch. Braden Martin in car 09 leading the way as well. So sure these guys will be talking to each other on comms to make sure there's no contact. Another locked-on car in the background just getting out of the way as Thomas Hinds, our leader, comes through. It's 282 Nathan Verney. And then you can see the gap back to second, third and fourth. So a little bit of lap traffic coming up for these guys in the remaining 4 laps to go, so that just might throw the cat amongst the pigeons that we're looking for and give Ewan Baker a bit of a sniff.
Every single lap that passes closer to the checkered flag, the level of desperation rises up. The patience wears thin, and it's all about where you are on that final lap. Hancock might have pushed a little wide there, lets Henry get a very good run at him, but won't look down the inside of the final corner.
I think those two are connected by a piece of rope because they've literally kept that gap for the majority of the race between them. So we'll have to go back through scrutineering in Parc Ferme at the end of this and see whether one's towing the other one along.
Shepherd looking in his mirrors, trying to break the toe, coming back onto the racing line. Baker thinking about a look at that super fast corner there. It's just not enough of a braking zone really to try to make a pass there. It's all about trying to force a mistake, trying to get a good run up the hill and towards Druids. Again, he's just sniffing around, but no mistake to be found from Duke.
Yeah, Warren Head, I was going to say, Ewan Baker's done a pretty good job to get onto these guys. We did see some fastest laps set in the effort to get onto the back of the second, third place, but now he's there. He's probably finding it a little bit hard under that dirty air that you spoke about earlier, David, to get close enough to put the pressure on. Again, it's pretty close there from Adrian Duke on the back of Shepherd. He pulls up to the inside as they make their way down the hill. This could be the opportunity that Ewan Baker needs to find his way through.
Yeah, it was a little mistake from Baker in the final corner, gave Duke some breathing room and opportunity to think, okay, maybe I can take second place here, get away from some of the pressure, but it didn't work. He went wide at Cascades, did Adrian Duke, and Baker up into third, now to put the pressure on Brodie Shepherd. And he looks to stay out of the way.
Wilkinson, I think, 268. Yeah, so he does a pretty good job on the right-hand side there to stay out of everybody's way. So Ewan Baker tips it in. He has been used to following these guys for the last 2 or 3 laps now. He's made his way past Adrian Duke to settle for the third spot on the podium. But if Ewan has proven anything so far during the course of this season, that he's out there for race wins. So he's not going to get that tonight, obviously, unless something pretty drastic happens to Thomas Hinds, who's 6.5 seconds down the road. But I'm sure he'd love to secure that second place going into the final round next week, or in a fortnight's time, sorry.
Long run on these tyres at this point. Baker looks to the inside at turn 1. Shepherd very quick around the outside, millimetres from touching there. Shepherd will defend his second place around the outside of turn 1. Cars are starting to move around a little more as they have a lot of heat, a lot of work into these tyres, and you can see Baker sliding it around just a little bit as he tries to push for this second place and keep the blowtorch on Shepherd.
Yeah, I'm pretty nervous for Baker at the moment, to be honest. Like, as much as he'd love to have that second place secured at the end of round number 5, he's got more to lose than he has to gain, I think, by gaining that one position. If he finds himself off track with some damage now with 2 laps to go, that lead that he took into this round will be demolished. If not, he'd find himself back into P2 going into the last round. So he's got to be pretty careful here.
Oh boy, Looking at the outside of Knickerbrook, and you see how much they've cost each other as Adrian Duke steams up. They've cost themselves big time, and Shepherd will still have the inside here at Druids. Tries to give the space. Baker around the outside, super compromised. They almost hit there, and Shepherd will still look to get down the inside at the final corner here. Keep that pressure on. We've seen around the outside offline, there's no traction there. Shepherd might fight this one back, and they're coming to the final lap.
Duke into the pits.
And Duke, is he going to run out of fuel otherwise?
He might have seen the battle that was forming in front of him and just thought, bugger this, I'm out of it. So that's an unscheduled stop from Duke. Of course, that's going to give Darren Tune a freebie up into P number 4. But this battle for second and third is going. I reckon they've nearly gone a complete lap side by side, these two.
Shepherd won't give up on it, and he won't now that it's the final lap. He gets down the inside at the quick left-hander. Baker hangs it around the outside, didn't find the white line, didn't find the grass, kept it just in play, but now he runs wide at the hairpin, no traction on the grass. Shepherd back through into second place on the final lap. Where can Baker strike back with half a lap to go? I'm not sure he can. That was a big error as far as this race goes, and these guys, the way they've been fighting, great racing, but it's opened up 10 seconds to Thomas Hinds to keep his championship alive if he brings this home for the win.
It's exactly what he needed to do. I'm sure he probably didn't foresee this dominant win 10 seconds down the road coming his way quite so easily, but I'm sure he will take it, the championship trophy, right through to the last round as they drop the checkered flag. He done a big wide run across the checkered flag and across the finish line, and that's a race win for Thomas Hinds. The battle for second sees the Brody Shepherd across the line for second, Ewan Baker after that intense battle for third.
Darren Tune, solid fourth place there as well. You know, Duke, a problem, needing to pit on the final lap. You know, others faltering, and Tune just snuck his way up into fourth. Yet the problems that befell the ORT teammates of Quist and Thomas as well, and past them, so good drive from Tune. I think Hinds is not disappointed with that win. He'll take a couple of points out of Ewan Baker and still give himself a chance of going back-to-back in Ozicar F4 at the final round. It's a chance still.
Yes. Making absolute short work of that, those tyres there on the back of that Formula 4 car, celebrating in style. But we'll have a quick look at our Simspeed replay. The car of 09 Braden Martin, I think that pretty well sums up his night as he makes heavy contact into the wall. There's some repairs going on to that thing before our final round in 2 weeks' time. I don't know if that was frustration or whether that was a technical fault, but
No, I think it was. I think that was pretty deliberate. I think that was just a big show of frustration to Braden Martin, who we have seen, you know, taking pole positions in this car in this championship, fighting up front, and tonight he was not able to do it. It was Thomas Hinds, Brody Shepherd, Ewan Baker on the podium. Tune up into fourth late on, and Chastano fifth, Jared Thomas sixth, Adrian Duke with that late pit stop dropping him to seventh, ahead of Lukvist, Dennis Hancock, and Warren Henry. 2.5 seconds between them at the end, so it must have been a pretty long piece of string, Jason.
Yeah, they say how long is a piece of string? It's 2.5 seconds long. P11 Brody Tressiter there, the last car on the lead lap, and then we did see Braden Martin kiss the wall after the checkered flag there. He was followed across the line by teammate Nathan Verney. Ira Felberg, after getting caught up in that lap 1 incident in P14, Peter Wilkinson up 6 to P15 to cross out his night. Darren Shannon, John Snell, Sean Doyle in 16, 17 and 18 respectively. Roy Clark three laps off the lead, and then we did see a podium contention in Julian Kleinsbernick make hard contact with the tyres quite early on in the race, and he was our first of our non-finishers tonight.
Wow, so pretty exciting Enduro round at the end. Got some drivers standing by that we can grab. So let's do it. Here's the Hinsey. Race winner, keeping your championship alive, and a dominant result in the end.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, that was really good. That was that was just what I really needed after the shambles that was Scops in the end last night. After doing so well on that and then stuffing that right at the end with my own self kneecap. It was good to have a good one tonight and get a little bit of that confidence back that I lost last night. Awesome battle obviously to start with you and managed to keep with him. Yeah, I thought he'd get away, managed to keep with him, and then nice bit of side by side that was very cool for a good half lap, whatever it was, and then he just lost it. It looks like I was going to replay then, just lost it on his own there at the last corner, and and then from there I just keep it clean, keep putting in good laps, and managed to hold on. So good to get another win here.
You're never out of it until it's done. One round left. What would it mean to be the back-to-back F4 champion?
Yeah, it'd be very cool. Very cool to get it twice. It'd be pretty good. I think I'd be very happy with that, especially if it was obviously as we just saw with this one as well. You never know, especially being track is that last round. It's really, you could never know what's going to happen. So who knows? But it'd be pretty cool if I could bring it back after sort of again just like last night, kneecapping myself earlier in the season a bit. It'd be pretty special to bring it back. But obviously, as we know, as we saw today, who knows what's going to happen. So we'll just turn up to the last round and just do the same thing, just do the best I can, and we'll see how it pans out.
Congratulations again, and we'll see you there.
Thanks, David. Thank you.
So race one, place getter tonight, Thomas Hinds there, doing everything he can to keep this championship alive as we go into the final round in a fortnight's time at Knock Hill. But I have gone for a bit of a wander outside the commentary box and happened to stumble across our second place getter tonight after 33 laps around Oulton Park. I'm speaking with Brody Shepherd. Welcome to the commentary box, Brody.
Thanks, guys. That was a lot of fun and a hard race.
I don't know how much you've been sweating over those last couple of laps, but you made some absolute brilliant TV footage for us to commentate on. There was plenty of on-track action. You were pushing the limits right through until that last lap. Lots of holding of the breath, but managed to come through for a very well-deserved and a popular second place.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. That was a hard work. I think the biggest gap I had behind me the whole race was half a second, so it was constant, just full pressure, full focus, trying to hit every corner. And it's a really difficult track to overtake, but the draft was quite strong in places, so people could catch up and get side by side, but then getting that right to the past was found quite difficult.
So you played the same strategy as our race leader did, and pitted at the same time, getting out of that little bit of a battle that you were tied in with Chastanoff and Adrian Duke. Paid dividends because you came out with a little bit of clear track around you, albeit maybe that half a second or a second gap, but just a little bit of breathing room at the halfway point of the race might have just been enough to reset and push yourself through to the checkered flag.
Yeah, those James and Adrian started catching up towards the end, so I thought I'd pit in a lap earlier. And then James got out in front of me, but then he missed the first corner coming out of the pits. I'm not sure what happened there, but he just went straight and tried to take a different track layout, so kind of helped me get past that. But yeah, it was close. My outlap wasn't the best, but it was very close racing, and everyone was on pace and all respectful, and it was good fun.
Yeah, well, I think your outlap was obviously better than Chasty's because his cold tyres caught him out as he made his way down the hill there. And once you got back into second, it was head down, eyes forward. Of course, you had plenty of company in the form of Adrian Duke behind you for a majority of it. And then Ewan Baker threw his hat in the ring there with the dying laps as well. So I'm sure you'll be keen to go away, recap, take a big deep breath and reflect on what was an absolutely stellar race.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go breathe for 5 minutes or so and try and catch my breath after that one and just relax. But yeah, it was an intense race. Everyone was on pace, and just you didn't have this track was so quick with no time for rest. I don't think I had a drink that whole race because the one shot I tried to, I nearly went off the track. So it was a very intense race.
Yeah, well, again, we're going back to Knock Hill again in a fortnight's time. That's going to be even worse. A very, very busy little track. There'll be even less opportunity for a drinks break halfway around the lap. Although I think we're back to a sprint race rather than in endurance. So that'll make things pretty interesting. I'm not sure whether you've done too many laps there, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what next fortnight's final season closer can produce.
Yeah, I've done a couple of laps, but that was on first release in TCRs, so it's a very different beast to the F4 car. So I think it's going to be good racing. Everyone's going to be really close, and it's going to be fine lines like it was here to try and keep it on track and straight in a straight line. But I reckon it'll be good fun and really good racing.
All right, mate. Well, congratulations. As second place, you'll take that form into our final round in a fortnight's time here on Simspeed TV. Do you want a quick shout out to sponsors, teammates, or supporters before we let you go?
Yeah, just cheers, guys. Cheers for hosting this. Cheers to Ira for putting this on and putting on a great season. I'm sure Formula Ford's going to be as good as this next week, so everyone should come join that session. Yeah, thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night.
All right, absolutely stellar performance there tonight by second place getter Brady Shepherd. So congratulations to him, Dave. I believe you may have pulled our third place getter into the commentary box as well, and you can have a chat with him.
Yeah, well, talk us through that one then, because certainly you might have had the most interesting race of anyone.
Yeah, I like making it interesting, don't I? Give myself way too much work to do. Yeah, early on, run side by side with Hinsey there. Got a good run after I locked up into Shell Oils. Wasn't initially intending to run it side by side, but I found, at least at the bottom of the straight, I was able to keep the speed into it. So I thought, I'll just stick in it, see how it goes. And then just at the last corner, all the grip and I think the camber of the road drops away and just back in, spun round on me. And that was all she wrote for that. And yeah, dropped down to, I think it was 7th or 8th after that. So yeah, it was just head down, push, try and get through the field. Fortunately, made a few places over the pit stop cycle. And yeah, just fought my way through. Otherwise, fantastic battle at the end with Brody. So difficult to overtake around here is that you really need to just commit and expect to be running side by side for a few corners around here. So yeah, slight mistake at the end. Got a little bit too eager on the throttle. I knew he was going to get a good run down the back straight, so I wanted to ensure I got the best drive I could. And unfortunately, that drive put me on the curb and into the grass. But it is what it is. Third place after spinning early on is plenty good enough, and yeah, keeps my championship lead fairly secure going into the last round. So reasonably happy.
Now, in the shorter races, we've seen either pitting very early or very late is the right way to go. What's the considerations into, when you pitted, when everyone else seemed to pit in this 50-minute race?
It was quite difficult, actually, because I thought about trying to undercut, but there wasn't really a lot of point. I had enough space in front of me. I thought maybe running it longer means the fuel level goes down, you get a bit more speed out of this car the lower the fuel is. And the big thing was the draft. Just the last few laps of fuel in the car, I was catching up with the car in front and starting to get the draft, and that was giving me an extra few tenths a lap. So I thought, okay, stick with this and see if that can overcut me from everyone else that pitted a few laps earlier, which did seem to work, which was good.
Well, you'll still retain the championship lead going into the final race, but you've got to be just a little more careful now.
Yeah, definitely. And then Knock Hill being the final round and the triple sprint, so we'll have a reverse grid for race 2 out there. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Very difficult track. I thought this track was a workout. I think Knock Hill is going to be even more so. There'll be a lot of dead arms by the end of that night. And yeah, Hinsey's just on form. His pace is immense. We saw at Brands Hatch, he was able to fly through the field race 1, beat me to the line race 2, and then tonight as well, just took the lead and didn't look back. So yeah, I will be looking over my shoulder a little bit, but I know I just need to sort of save top 3, top 4 every race, and that should be enough, but never know what happens. It's such a close field, and like the track that Knock Hill is, could easily run it wide, bit of contact, anything could put you out. So it'll be interesting, that's for sure.
How's this Formula 4 suited your driving, and how do you go in a Formula Ford?
I find the downforce good for me. I do drive a wide variety of cars, so I'm someone that gets very bored if I just stick with one thing for too long. But if for whatever reason, open wheel, especially sort of F4, F3 sort of type speed, really does work well for my driving style, for whatever reason. Formula Forward, obviously no downforce on that, a lot more slide out, but I don't know, this might be a bit odd, but it reminds me a little bit of the Toyota 86 that got released, and just how you have to be very smooth on your inputs and keep the car very planted. It's fun to drift, but it's very slow to drift. So I think if you keep it sort of steady, especially through the high speed stuff, that's where a lot of the pace can be found. So yeah, we'll see. I'll try and make it to round one. Not 100% sure I can commit to that for the Formula Forwards, but I'll do my best. And especially on Phillip Island, we'll see what happens.
What are your thanks and shout outs, and good luck for the final round?
Just as always, big thank you to Kiwi Sim Racing. The team supported me on my ventures in the sim racing world this last year or so. They've been fantastic. Big shout out to the sponsor Speed Nation, Inspire.net, and Scott Technology as well for helping on board since I started and being there for me. It's really great.
See you, Knock Hill.
Yeah, see you then. Look forward to it.
Well, that just about wraps up another spectacular Formula 4 race here from Ozicar Series Formula 4s on Simspeed TV. As we mentioned, we will be back in 2 weeks' time for Knock Hill. There has probably not been a better track selection for our season closer, and it's really going to mix things up, which is exactly what we want to see to close out a championship.
Yep, it will be interesting, no doubt. Lots happening in the world of Aussie car, with the new Formula Ford getting its championship underway soon as well. So if that's the kind of racing you're interested, make sure you check out Aussie Car either on Facebook, on their Discord, or on their website, and get amongst that very, very exciting little car, and some good prizes actually in that championship as well. Thanks for joining us on SimSpeed, though, for Formula 4 from Oulton Park. Thanks to Locked On iRacing Podcast, Sim Racing Leagues, Prestige, Trophy Badge and Engraving, and the No Social Hate campaign. We'll see you for a season decider next time out.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.